Good morning. If everyone would like to get your coffee and start to have a seat, we're going to start here in a couple minutes. So I'm going to introduce us. How many of you have never been here before until today? All right, new people. Well, I'm going to introduce us. This is Kyle. We've got Caitlin, Billy, and in the middle is John. All right. So we're going to kind of let you know how this works. We're going to start out, there's going to be two presenters today. We've got panelists that are going to ask them questions first, and then we're going to open up the floor for everybody else. So panelists, if you would like to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Jim Starsov. I guess I hate the term, but I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. My most recent company is Perfect Cube, which is a data analytics for food retail, which is part of the reason I think I was brought on. But I also have an education background, so I think both companies presenting today should be interesting for me.
Awesome. I'm Corey Moan. I'm the executive director of the Blue Valley CAPS program down in Overland Park, Kansas. And we actually have formed a national network now around profession-based learning for high school students, working with the professional community here in Kansas City and beyond. So I was just visiting here, 31 programs now, 60 school districts in 10 states, working to support entrepreneurs. So excited to be here.
Excellent. Thank you both for joining us. Quick announcement here at the top. If you were able to hang out after 1 million cups, I definitely recommend you do, because we will be having a conversation with another expert in the crowd today. That's Del Gines. He's here with the Federal Reserve, and we're going to be chatting about inclusive entrepreneurship. So if you would like to be a part of that discussion, hang out after 1 million cups. We'll take 5 minutes to refill our coffees and such, and then get that conversation started. So I hope you can hang out.
All right, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Nicole, just so you know. Hi, Nicole. Hi. So our first presenter is Zach with Historical Conquests. He's going to be telling us about a super exciting game that he's been designing for about 15 years. Awesome.
Good. Can you guys hear me? Thank you. Awesome. So thank you, 1 Million Cups, for having us out. Thank you, Kansas City, business owners, entrepreneurs. This is a great opportunity for us, and we really appreciate it. Where'd they go? There we are. So before I get into the business, I'd like to see how many of you actually know history. Not many people do when it comes to some subjects. So first off, by raise of hands, how many people knew that the first African-American elected official was right after the Revolutionary War? 1, 2, okay. How many knew that the first US senator, African-American, was actually elected right after the Civil War, before segregation, and was also in the state of Mississippi by a large majority? It's pretty amazing. The third most deadliest conqueror in the world killed 17 million people, more than Hitler, right below Mao Zedong from China, and also Joseph Stalin from Russia. He was also the third most conquered, the one that conquered the most land, at 2.1 million miles, square miles, right below Genghis Khan and also Alexander the Great. This man, I don't know if you guys know him, but raise a hand. Who knew about Caesar Rodney? He's a man that if he didn't ride all night to get to the signing of the Declaration of Independence, we wouldn't have had that. So he went through a storm, which his horse actually rode all night and was there just in time to sign it. Billy Millen was a man that he played the bagpipes during the storming of Normandy at one of the beaches when the Scottish invaded. And he wasn't shot by the snipers there. Later on, the snipers were captured and asked questions. One of the things they asked him is, why didn't they shoot this guy? And they thought he was a lunatic because he was playing the bagpipes. But that's what empowered the Scottish to take the beach. And last one, who here has ever heard of the man Thomas Crapper? Yeah, As you can see, he didn't make the toilet, but he was the one that promoted indoor plumbing. So thanks to him, we have indoor plumbing. So God bless this guy, and sorry about his name. Now, why is history so important? Okay, so in history class, a lot of us have memorization, we have book learning, we have lectures. It's really boring at times. So these are the ways we learn in school. A lot of times teachers are teaching at a narrative because there's so much information, they can't get to everything, so they shrink it down into the easiest way of presenting it, just because they don't have the time to do it, and they don't have the right resources. Solid academic performance, 20% by the fourth grade, 17% by the 8th grade, and also 12% by the time they graduate. That's pretty sad, and that's the United States. That's not in any other country, that's here in the United States. And then the well-known quote, those that don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. So this is a problem because think of military strategy. If we don't learn from the past, we're going to repeat a lot of the problems that we had in the past. But also business, that's a big one. Recessions that happen, all these things we're learning from the past. So let me tell you how this began. This is what I really like, really got me excited. I liked games when I was a kid. I hated history class because I had the same problems as a lot of kids. I liked the game of Risk and also Magic the Gathering. I don't know if you've heard of it, but those were my games of choice. But when I went off to college, I had an English class assignment where the teacher said, you know, write one-page essay and create a product that will change the world. Well, I wanted to change the world for the people that went to history class that didn't want to learn history because it wasn't exciting. So now, in the present day, we've taken this one-page essay, developed a product, and now here's the thing. So after I created this product, it was 15 years ago, as was mentioned, but that's when I got married, and my wife told me to put away the game and go get a real job. So she wanted me to be the responsible adult. So I did for 11 years. And it's thanks to some kids that I was teaching entrepreneurship to that they wanted to see what I produced. Then they wanted to play it. And after that, they wanted more, and that's history. That's how it all started. So present day, we've moved from Alaska, Juneau, Alaska, to Kansas City, Missouri. We're actually up in Liberty. Because this is a hub that really should have a lot more influence than it really does. This is actually one of the hubs that should be like New York and LA, but without the feeling of that. Because we're centralized in the whole country. We have major intersections that come through with major highways. This is why we've chosen this. So we're right now about 7 employed, and we have 100 plus that we're working at. The game itself is, right now we have 500 individual cards found in decks, starter decks. We have one that is being released in 2 weeks. We have 9 expansion decks, which are, the expansion decks are smaller decks. While the starter decks are all world history, the smaller decks are individual. So Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War II, and such. So we actually break it down. And then we have playmats to go along with that. These are the releases. We're constantly releasing new product. But here's the really great thing. So we couldn't produce this and get all the outreach out. We're just a few people. But through our ambassador program, we actually have fans that are sending it all around the United States. They're starting up tournaments. Right now we're in about 40 states doing tournaments. 20 states that we have public tournaments, and we do it all the time. We have a contest that happens every year where the students submit the person's name, the history, and the abilities they should have for the game, and if they're chosen as number 1, they get $500. What student wouldn't want that? At the same time, we take the top 12 cards and we make them into physical cards, and we have the rare card program. Unlike other games where you have to buy 100 decks just to get 1 card, we hated that process. Except for the business point of view, it's great because people can constantly buy decks of cards, spend tons of money. That's a great thing for a business, but we care about our customers. So this way, they send us an essay, we send them a rare card. So you can still have the hunt, you can still have everything that you want, and it gets people empowered. And truthfully, the people that buy this a lot of times are the parents. And the parents buy this sometimes just because of that program, just because of the programs that we put on furthering. So right now we're in the social media outreach. We're trying to get out to more people. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. YouTube we've only been on for a month and a half. We're still growing, but they're low numbers, so we're trying to find ways of getting outreach. And really fast, the future. Right now we have a computer game being programmed. Hopefully we'll be out by October. As soon as that's done, we have an app-based card game that you can go on your phones. And I won't tell you much about it, but the biggest thing is it's called the world's largest treasure hunt. In the future, I'll tell you more. We also have a sculptor. We actually partnered up with one of the sculptors for Marvel and DC Comics. We're going to actually make action figures for people like George Washington, Nikola Tesla. And the funny thing is, it's been tested that kids actually want this. Yeah, it's not fiction, but they actually want these guys. Another thing, we're talking about how the curriculum in schools, in high school, is somewhat boring. And it's not to the teacher's fault, it's just they have not the best resources. So we're creating more resources for the teachers. Also, we're making games from other subjects, and we're making those just as exciting as Historical Conquest. And last off, this is the pinnacle of what we're trying to do. We're trying to launch Historical Conquest 2.0. So we're having a Kickstarter, which is a fundraiser online. I know a lot of you know this. But on October 17th, 2017, we're relaunching this. We have a goal of making about $1 million. Now, our goal won't be set at $1 million, but that's what we're hoping to. Because we want to produce all these things. We want to make it so kids can have fun in school. And so we'd love to have help when it comes to that. So thank you again, Kansas City and 1 Million Cups for having us here.
Thank you, Zach. We will turn it over to our expert panel for the first round of questions.
I love that you call us experts. It's just amazing to hear that. It's also probably not true. Love this idea. When I was a kid, I would have died to have played something like this as someone who actually did enjoy history. And I can see where it's very engaging. I'm wondering just a couple of quick questions.
Please.
How many game boards do you have out currently?
We have 6 play mats. The great thing about the play mats is they're not necessary to play. You can play on a kitchen table, but that's the mat to play on.
How many have you gotten out into the market?
6 right now.
I mean, how many total,
Total
boards
decks,
have you sold?
15,000.
50,000 boards.
15,000, yeah.
Wow, okay. And what's the target age range?
The average age is between 8 and 16,
Okay.
but we actually have some 5-year-olds who are way advanced in their reading, because we say you have to be able to read it in order to play. We have some 5-year-olds that supposedly, according to their parents, have actually memorized all the cards. It's not me saying this, it's their parents saying it, so it's quite amazing.
Yeah, and you talked about thinking about curriculum down the road, but have you sold any of these directly into schools yet?
We have some schools where it's bought by the teachers, but not the school systems, and that's what we're trying to do now.
Okay.
Well, to follow up on that, though, but you have targeted homeschool students, so right? And so are you actually doing that for credit for homeschool, or are you really just using it as a game resource?
Right now, this is set as a reinforcement tool. This is how we sell it to the parents. A lot of times when you hear a curriculum, it goes in one ear, comes out the other. This is the reinforcement to make it so that as they're learning a curriculum, they can actually have this information solidify in their minds. And it's been proven that I've got plenty of stories to tell that it actually works like that.
Okay, well, but I guess, because I actually had a
for it.
homeschool student for a couple of years, too.
Right.
So can someone use this to get history credit?
Actually, there's an academy in Kansas City that actually has a class called Historical Conquest. And they have actually created a curriculum around it. We have not created the curriculum, we've created the product. But we're hoping to take that information and create a curriculum that others can use.
Okay, so how, and looking at your website and this presentation, the one thing that did confuse me a little bit is you seem to be marketing on the website more as a game, tournaments and do this, and the presentation was more, it's a education tool. So are you kind of just trying to walk the fence on that, or are you really trying to target it one direction or the other?
That's a great question, because we've actually toyed trying to figure out what to do. When it comes to retailers, game retailers and stuff like that, people that play Magic, as I said, that was my game of choice. I've talked to these guys, and a lot of them don't want to touch it because it has to do with history. They feel they're being taught when they just want to leave society and get it out of reality. And so in that sense, we're trying to target them as it's a game. Because the great thing is you don't have to play it to learn, but in the end, you'll actually learn at the same time. So yes, we've skirted both lines. When we go to conventions, it's all about the education. But when we present it online, it's a fun game and you'll learn something, but it's as a background almost. And maybe we need to have some input on that more, of having those two sides.
And we're going to turn it over to the audience for questions, so please get your hands up if you have them. As we do that, can you tell us just a little bit about gameplay?
So the gameplay is fairly simple. If you guys know the game of Risk, you'll be able to know this game. It's basically where you're trying to take over the world. To start off, you start off with one card, one land card. So it's more than just people, places, events. It's also, you start off with a country, and you defend it with different people from history. They all have attack points and defense points, much like the other games out there. Then if you find an Explorer, which is a blue card, it says Explorer on the top right-hand corner, then that's the person will find you new land. So you can grow your civilization. At the same time, you can attack your opponent and try to take their land from them.
All right, we have a question over here.
I trust that it's fun and all of that, and I understand the Magic tie-in. Do you have any metrics that show kids are learning, and not just anecdotal evidence, but testing and essays beyond turning in for rare cards?
Yes, actually 2 years ago there was a study done by a university. They actually wanted to do it just as a class assignment. And this was not just one person, this was the actual class. They did a whole study on it. And they showed that it was that, but they also had other things that they wanted us to do, which is some of the things that we're trying to implement into 2.0. Besides that, from reviews, from parent stories, I know it's a little offside, it's not the study, but that's also where we get a lot of our information from. We're trying to find ways of doing studies to be more presented as education, and this is where we skirt the line of doing the education in the games. So yes, we're looking for more ways of doing studies on the game.
That's my kid.
No.
Okay.
Question here in the center.
So, right here.
Oh, there you
So, you have a number of different options. Can't remember what you call them, the maps or
Yeah, play mats.
the play mats and so forth. So I know this can be a complex answer, but I'm looking for a simple response. What is the average spend per customer? And the part two of this question is, why a goal of $1 million? What's the rationale behind that?
Okay, so first off, the simple question behind, the first one again. Okay, average spend. So if we go online, the average spend is around $50 to $60. The average spend at a convention is actually around $100. Because parents that go to the conventions, the homeschooling conventions, they're there to spend money on curriculum and buy things. Usually they wait till the very end of the convention to buy, but they spend $100 to $150. On the site, it's a little bit different. And so, yeah, that's basically it. And then, question? Oh yeah, $1 million. So the $1 million is actually one of the goals that was set both by our partner that's doing the sculpting and also our outreach to our clients about how many people would be interested in doing this type of thing. But it's also the fact that we have a lot of programs to create, including this partnership that I was saying was the largest treasure hunt in the app form. So that's where we see we can reach. Our actual goal will be around $100,000, or maybe a little bit less than that. Again, by October, we'll have the set numbers of how much we're going to go for. But we see it being able to reach that point. And that's why we're trying to get the outreach, so that we can make this something that is used in every classroom, or at least most classrooms. I hope I answered your question.
Question on your right.
History is pretty long. How do you separate or differentiate, for example, ancient history or American history, and do you mix, typically when I was growing up, there was American history was blacks were left out of, and we know that that's not the true history. How do you incorporate all of these different types of history?
Okay. So let me break this into two things. So right now we're actually working with an organization over in the UK that they are trying to get into stores there. It's the Historical Society. There's two of them that are major over there. But we see things fairly different than they do. The way that we've actually written the cards is we try to give them the bare bone minimum of facts of what they are, cutting out all bias, just give them complete fact. And then we give them a reference point at the bottom where they can actually do more research. So in that sense, that's how we distinguish between that. In the gameplay, though, we've actually found that kids are more excited when we have a large range of people that they know, and also people they don't know. So the game, you can actually conquer the world with anybody from history. So you play with them all together. But within the next year, one of the other projects we have is creating our first expansion game, which would be like just the Revolutionary War. So you would learn about just the Revolutionary War while playing the game. I hope that answers your question.
Question in the center.
Yeah.
Not to get too granular, but can you tell me a little bit more about the gameplay? Specifically, my understanding is you have a lot of military figures, but then you also have, you show Tesla there, non-military, technology, cultural figures, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Can a player here's my question, can a player with a heavy technology, culture, peaceful hand, or I assume it's a deck building type game, can they prevail over a heavy military hand? And is there a lesson that can be learned through the game with that?
This is a great question because this comes up a lot, especially with parents. Because a lot of the parents at homeschooling groups, they don't really want the war part. They love the game of Risk, but they're not much into the game for war. There's actually two ways of winning the game. One is that you conquer the world, you take all of your opponent's land, and that's through attack and defense. And that's how the military fits in. But at the same time, there's two problems that we found with the game when we first designed it. One is, like Risk, it could take 4 to 6 hours to play. And that was just a little bit too long for most people. We added what's called the morale counter, which is at the top of the mat. You're trying to get your morale of your people from 0 to 3,000 points. So authors, musicians, artists, people of culture can increase your morale of your people. So if you get up to 3,000 points, you win the game. If you conquer the world, you win the game. And now here's the great thing, and this is actually why a lot of girls like playing the game. So boys, we're wired to try to conquer the world, right? Sorry to say, we want to conquer the world. At the same time, mothers, sisters, women are more likely to go after what's the morale points. And as I said, morale points takes you about a half hour to an hour and a half to play. So it's a faster win. And so almost every time that a girl plays against a guy, the first time, girls always win. I try not to tell the boys that, but they'll learn it.
I have a question on your left.
Congratulations on coming up here. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of guts to do what you're doing. So there's a lot of entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial people that may not do what you're doing. I have several questions. I am very familiar with board games. I'm actually, one of my really good friends runs a board game bar in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And the question that I have is, who have you gone out to with this game? Like, have you gone to any board game places? Who have you connected yourself with? That's the first question. And the second question is, who is your competition?
Okay. So who have we gone out to? When we first began, we started going out to a lot of the reviews. Dice Tower, Board Game Geeks, we started going on. We had all these different places that we were trying to get the reviews from actual game players. And then also educators. We've also gone out to them, but you're more of the game section. So we've gone out to a few people. We're actually looking for more, especially before we do the Kickstarter, because we want to get our name out. As I said, we're trying to get the exposure now. Our target market was the homeschooling, as we said before. And so we focused on that because the truth is I was a stay-at-home dad for the first few years that we started doing this. And just recently, we started doing it full-time because it was just exploding and had to do it. So we're looking for more people to go out to. Sorry, your second question?
Competition.
Competition, actually, quite easily. Our biggest competition is actually all the games out there already. Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, all the fictional games out there, because truthfully, when kids get out of school, they don't want to be educated. They want fiction. They want to get out of reality. They want to just have fun. So the reason why we did these epic images, the reason why we did a game that doesn't have to do anything with education if you don't want to, is because we wanted to get them out of the reality, like in schools, but at the same time, feel like I could actually learn history. This is actually quite fun. And come back to school and say, okay, I'm ready to learn. Because this game, I didn't tell you this in the presentation, but this game actually changed my life. Because I went from very low grades in college, and when I started doing this, every class I went to, it started to develop itself. It went from that one-page essay to all of a sudden a product before I ended school. And I went from lower grades to straight A's because I had a reason to be in class. So if I can make education exciting for youth as they go through, I'm going to do everything I can to get them there.
Question in the center.
Okay.
Kind of got twofold questions. First of all, you're in my wheelhouse. Past history teacher, huge board game nerd, so we're all over this. But when I think about it as a teacher, I think I've got a 45-minute class period. I saw your 30-minute gameplay on Board Game Geek, but then you're telling me you got 3 to 4 hours. So my question to you is, I've got to build a lesson, and I've got to have a lesson design, and I've got to have a learning objective.
Yep.
Okay, I could see 2 ways of doing it. You can do narrative, where you said you're coming out with the Revolutionary War, but then I can also do leadership traits. I learning objectives that go through time, and we don't have to always be historically in a timeline. My question to you is, how do you get to me? I know, homeschooling, yes, but that teacher, I want this, I wanted this bad, I want to organize this. How do I build a lesson objective where I can make sure a kid playing on this table and a kid playing on this table learn relatively the same thing? Because I understand deck building, and I love deck building games, but you got a million different gameplays. What's amazingly fun on the game side is difficult as a teacher to lead in the education side. How are you going to blend those two for us?
Yeah, I totally feel for every history teacher, because as I said, when I was in high school, I didn't like it. But my teacher actually had like 30 plus students, and they didn't have time to tell all these stories. And so that's one of the reasons why we are mentioning the curriculum. We're trying to create a way of having these lesson plans so that teachers can do their own thing when it comes to this, but able to teach them the same way, be able to get it to be exciting. So the teachers that I mentioned before that actually have this in their class, a lot of times what they've done is they actually use it in the, like after a test. Go play with this or something like that. You have free time, here you go. But if we can get them to use this as a hands-on, real-life application, then that's where we'll make the difference. And that's why we're creating the curriculum for you, for history teachers, because we know the difficulty it is to teach. Does that answer your question? Or? Okay.
Okay, we have one last question over here.
Okay.
I was looking through your site, took a quick trip to Amazon, noticed on your site you've got a starter set at $119, but you go to Amazon, it's at $86. So which of those channels are you really trying to push? And do you feel like there's some confusion there, or that might be a negative that somebody who buys it from you on your site then goes and shops it later at a 30% discount is going to be irritated?
So I like that, because if you're thinking it was that way, then we need to figure what's going on. Because on Amazon, the starter set is basically all the starter decks. The one that you're talking about on our site is all the starter decks, all the expansion decks, and 2 play mats. So if there was some confusion there, then of course I made the mistake. So we need to figure that out.
Highlighting the mats.
Mm-hmm.
Is this highlighting the mats that you wouldn't get as an add-on through other channels is a really strong message to send. It depends on who you're trying to drive your customer to.
Yeah.
But I would definitely take a look, because I did not get that.
Okay. No, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Okay, our final question is, what can we as a community do to help you?
So right now, my business partners, the people that are working for our company, we want to do our Historical Conquest 2.0. We really want to do this. But what we want to do is we would like to be able to make Kansas City the spot for doing this. We're actually reaching out to organizations around the city, to different people that have influence and are marketing people, bloggers as well. We're trying to make this have a great turnaround at the Kickstarter, so we can actually make this the hub and a lot of the, for lack of a better phrase, experimental place for Historical Conquest and every other game. So we really need help when it comes to Kickstarter. Again, October 17th it's coming out. We want to be able to hit it the first day. If you actually go on our website, you'll actually see that there's a link at the top. for Kansas City. And there's a place to RSVP if you're interested in helping out with that. We have a lot of opportunities, especially for people here. We also have tournaments coming in the area, so you can also sign up for that. Or if your kids or have friends, please sign them up for that. We want to touch more lives, so Kansas City can do that. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
All right, it's time for Mug Club. Go ahead and raise your hand if you've been here 10 or more times. Put your hand down if you're already in Mug Club. Anybody? Anybody? You? Right over there. John. You got a mic? All right, if you could introduce yourself and tell us why you come to 1 Million Cups.
Hello, I'm Jim Erickson. I work for the Economic Development Corporation of Kansas City, and we work with businesses in Kansas City, helping them stay here and be happy here and also attract new ones. So coming to this kind of just gives me a little bit of a pulse on the entrepreneur community.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, there's no Audience Connect question this week, but like you said, Dell Gines of the Federal Reserve will hang around afterwards to talk about inclusive entrepreneurship, so if you want to stick around for that. And next up, we have Deepwater Software. Please welcome Charity McGill.
Good morning. I take it my mic is working. My name is Charity McGill, and I'm the CEO from Deepwater Software. And I'm really, really excited to talk to you about the progress that we've made as Deepwater. But I want to give you a little bit of history about who I am. I have 4 children, and 2 weeks after the birth of my 3rd child, my husband and I decided it would be a great idea to open up a convenience store. No. So I already had a full-time job, so this was kind of my part-time job. Also, doesn't that sound like a great idea? About 3 years into running that convenience store, we realized we knew nothing about what we were doing. So we hired a consultant, brought them in and said, is it salvageable? Which he says, yes, it's okay, it's yes. But you know, it's a lot of work to run a convenience store. And so if you try to do that part-time or on the side, you're going to discover that it takes a whole lot of work. So we quickly realized we needed to automate that work, and I talked to my consultant and said, hey, is there anything out there that can help me automate? And he says, well, you know, there's this. And I said, okay, well, there's this. What else is there? And he says, well, you know, I don't know if anybody likes this, but you could try this. And so my background for my full-time job was as a product manager, and my little radar went up in my head and said, there might be an opportunity here. So I did about a year's worth of work. And in the progress, found out there is a blue ocean in what it is we're trying to do. And I drug over some partners with me that you're seeing over here on the left-hand screen. And I said, hey, I've got this perfect marriage of idea. We're going to take this great software and we're going to put it in a really small town in Greenfield, Missouri that is struggling with poverty line issues. So this is our office that you're seeing in the middle of the screen. This is a 2nd-story historical opera house. It's currently being restored, and we're in the bottom shelf. And so in doing that, you know, we got great community support, so that was an awesome thing for us. The idea took off, and we have currently raised almost $2 million, $750 from Simmons Bank, which has been great to work with for a small business in a loan, and then the rest through angel investors. But let's talk about the problem that money is going to solve. When we got into the business, what we thought we were going to do was build operational software for convenience store owners. I'm from an operational software background. I thought I knew that's what they wanted, so we went in, but in typical product management style. First 3 months, we realized we're going to get that out there, and they say, that's not what I want. And so we pull it back, and we say, well, what do you really want? And we talk to them a little bit more, and they say, okay, we've tried using this stuff over here. Does it work for me because there's this problem? All these suppliers drop this stuff off. They give me this invoice. It's got thousands of items on it, and I go through that invoice, and then I go over to my point of sale, and I have to change the price of my point of sale if I happen to remember that the last time I bought it, it was this price, and now it's this price. Now that'd be fine if I had just like 4 or 5 items on it, but that's not the case. The problem actually looks like this. Okay, there's thousands of supplier shipments coming in. There's hundreds of thousands of items going through, and they have to key that into a system that is really, really old for them. And so it was a huge problem. And we went out and we said, okay, let's help solve this problem. And our first thought was, let's get all those supplier things electronically. Well, we got a problem. We got all those things electronically, and that only 90% don't have electronic things. So 90% of their suppliers, 90% of these invoices, we couldn't even get electronically. And we said, oh, we've got a bigger problem. That's not going to work. So what we did is we said we need to do for cost of goods what barcode scanning did for revenue. We need to make it simple and easy. What we want to do is we want to make operating a convenience store as simple as pushing a button. And so right now we're uniting 97,000 convenience stores with a button push. So let's show you what that looks like. This is what it takes for them to get their supplier invoices electronically today using Deepwater software. They're going to put that scanner, they're going to plug it in, and they're going to push a button. And that's all. As a result of that button, they're going to get cost trends that tell them what happened with their cost of goods as they bought them from multiple suppliers. They're also going to get reports that categorize those things so that they can calculate their margins. And they're going to get a cost alert on their mobile phone anytime one of those supplier prices go up and down so that they can make a change inside their point of sale. And in doing that, we thought, this is great. Let's go tell all the convenience stores. And here's my story for you. There's over 97,000 independent convenience store owners, and they are all incredibly busy. And if you walk into their store and you say, hi, I've got this great thing to show you, they're going to say, I'm not the manager, she is, and walk out the back door because that's the way they work. And so we're left with a marketing struggle. They want the product. They don't know about the product. We can't tell them about the product because they don't want to listen to you. So what we did is we said we need to find a way to put this market in a niche. It's a small SaaS-based product. It doesn't cost very much. Let's see what we can do to get it out into the market. You know, we're a small startup. We've got to get moving. And so what we discovered was existing applications out there managing inventory still have the same challenge. I can't get electronic supplier invoices. And so we spoke with those and we said, hey, we can do that. You just put a scanner here, we'll give it to you electronically. You're not only going to get it, but you're going to get it better than what you get it from your electronic suppliers because we scrub it, we clean it, we add UPCs that are missing, and we go in and we make sure that the quantities match the cases so that it can be sucked right into your inventory, which is fantastic for them. And so we remarketed, and now we have two products, Connie Command, which is for our convenience store owners without these inventory systems, and Connie Conversion Plus, which is resold inside of these resellers. So let's talk about the people who love us. Over on the left are our customers. This is Chip, and Chip loves us because Chip no longer has to care anymore. Chip put the scanner on the front desk, his worker goes through, and she pushes the button. And Chip gets alerts, and he doesn't care anymore. He no longer finds things on his shelf that are selling at 20% under what he bought it for. He's no longer worried about losing margins left and right, and he doesn't have to think about it anymore. The other guy is my husband, and he loves me. All right, the guy on the right there is a Conversion Plus customer, and this customer loves us because if you were working with these inventory systems before, if you dedicated yourself to doing what you're supposed to do the right way, you would have been keying these things in. It would have cost you 2 to 8 hours per week of time, and that's if you can get that time uninterrupted. This lady hates her software. Hates it. She has a love-hate relationship with her software. So she puts in the software, we start feeding the invoices through, and she goes, oh, I can sleep. All right, so she's very excited to see us. So recently we've just signed our 4th reseller for a total of, and we have 5 more on deck, for a total of about 10,000 potential customers, all with this same problem, spending 2 to 8 hours per week. Now it'd be great if they could get that electronically, but I'll tell you the thing that makes us different is our accuracy. So when we talk about Connie Conversion and why they love us, they can get electronic data invoices, EDI, or they can use us. And it doesn't matter if it's handwritten, it doesn't matter who it comes from, it doesn't matter the technology of their supplier, 100% electronic supplier invoices. I don't have to think about it anymore. What makes it great though is that it's currently over 99% accurate. So our appropriate UPCs, our appropriate quantities, scrubbing and adding those data, making it possible to suck that immediately into the inventory is what makes it so great. Our Connie Command customers love us because they don't like to think. It's easy to use. Their experience with technology has been awful, and I'm going to talk about that with our challenges later. It has been dreadful. They really hate technology. They're salesmen. They own a retail business. They want to be with their customers. They want to talk products. They don't want to think about their point of sale. And so we also lower their total cost of ownership for their store. And then we have a higher probability of technology success. So if you've never used technology before, we're a great start because all you do is plug it in, connect it to Wi-Fi, and start pushing a button and magic happens. All right? So I want to talk about our challenges because that's why we're here. Deepwater is currently working with these resellers, but we're really struggling with the fast enough, big enough conversion from these resellers. We have a high probability of success. They tell us everything's going great, and then we're looking at, we've signed 12 in the first month, so this is great. 12 in the first month. The last reseller is going to sign 5 in their first day. So we have high hopes here, but at the same time, it's out of our control, so that's kind of the downside of going with that route. The second thing I'm going to talk about is trust barriers, because I think it's important in a big forum to talk about what you're doing as a company and how what you're doing impacts other businesses. If you are not a high trust individual building high integrity with your business, please get out of business. When we started going into this, what we discovered was people would say they could do something and then they wouldn't get it done. And then they would say it again and then they wouldn't get it done. Our number one barrier for sales right now is lack of trust. Right now, they've been burned multiple times by people to say, oh, it's going to be accurate, I promise, I promise. And it comes in and they're reviewing it for hours and hours and days. So they've tried to solve this problem and they've not been able to get there. So just getting them to actually use the thing, to go that one step of the mile has been the biggest barrier to sale. And then our last thing has been, on that note, we're trying to find the right investor. So we've reached this spot where we're ready to go. We're trying to find the right investor for our next phase, and what we really are looking for is a partner investor. Someone who understands the supplier market, someone who understands their needs, because underneath and behind the scenes, what we can give to suppliers is this interconnected web of 97,000 convenience stores and what they're selling in their store. I can tell you where the last peanut M&Ms was purchased. I can tell you what they bought with it and what the breadth of their market share is, regardless of the suppliers supporting that store. So that's us in a nutshell.
I just have so many questions at this point. I'm not sure where to start.
I thought you might.
And you did a great presentation. Thank you very much. Well, the first one I'll start. So I did say that you were looking at maybe other verticals, and I will first say this is a big market. I mean, we've looked at C-Store too. We work mostly in fast food, but C-Store is a huge market, and you have experience doing that. I would stay focused on C-Store. I don't think I would really expand that out, so that just a small piece of advice. So the first question on the technology. I have seen some solutions like that. I know C-Store Pro does a little bit of it. There's some in the restaurants that do it, but almost everybody does it with phones, using a phone app to snap a picture of the invoice. So why did you guys go the scanner route, putting a physical equipment in?
Okay, so we're partnered with C-Store Pro. So one of the things that I will tell you is we started out with a phone and we sent those alerts, and owners are surprisingly not that technologically savvy. So they really struggled with sending the invoices and getting like all the things in the picture. It was actually a pain because they took the picture, they had to attach it to an email, and then they had to send it. So it seemed like a great idea, but in reality, their user experience was not that great. So the first scanner we put in on our beta after they were using the phones, she hugged the lady that installed it and said, "God bless you." And they put, so she's very excited about that approach and that method. The other reason is the DPI coming off of it, so there is some OCR reading that we're doing. You can't get that off of a phone. And so anybody doing that right now today is manually keying, and the error rate is just unacceptable to keep it going.
Does it create a barrier for sales though, with obviously it's equipment? I mean, so you're a SaaS model, but you have, $700 upfront fee to get started.
Yeah, we do, and it is a huge barrier. And so in talking with some of our resellers about that, because it is an upfront issue for them, what they're discovering is it's not really the cost of the scanner, it's the risk that the scanner doesn't work. So they bring that in and they don't like the service, and now they're out the cost of that hardware. So one of the things we're doing to offset that is to offer trials. So our resellers will have a group of things that they're able to bring in, group of scanners they're able to bring in. Hey, just try it for a month. You won't go back, I promise you, just try it for a month. And in reality, 9 out of 10 purchase after they try it for a month. They've only had one not purchase, and it really was, she's never gonna do that.
Well, and there is a lot of, especially you get in the food side of things, of people that, waffle makers that will give you the waffle maker just to up their monthly cost a little bit. Grubhub will give you their pad to run it, just do it from the cost. So that might be something worth.
Yeah, and we've toyed with a lease program as well that just kind of does that. So yeah, those are both good points.
Loved your presentation style. Like
Well,
you are
thank
very,
you.
I can just tell you're a very genuine person and you're in this for a reason that's personal to you, which is always an awesome thing. I'm looking at your current challenges and I was thinking about this through your presentation and I'm wondering if I can kind of turn them back around on you. This idea of convenience stores and how dissipated they are, right? There's no central pull together to get them all in one place or to be able to take something to them. At least I don't know that there is something like that. A lot of independent ownership. So how do you tackle that challenge if you're truly wanting to scale this?
Well, you build exclusive relationships with people that already have those relationships, and then you build a piece of software that all of them can use. That's how you build that interconnected hub. Most of our sales are coming through our supplier partnerships and relationships. Word of mouth will catch on over time, but in reality, a small SaaS business starting out, you cannot wait on word of mouth. You cannot just go put a Google ad out and say, hey, everybody buy this, and assume they're going to see it.
Also love your logo, and this is a compliment coming from me. That actually reminds me of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters.
It does, that's true.
And that is an awesome thing. So
If you love the logo and the signage and things on our website, I would recommend Mighty Sharp in Springfield, Missouri. They are excellent to work with. They do video gaming, things like that.
Question on that. So why deep water?
That's a great story. So really, it's twofold. As a convenience store owner, you're buried in deep water and you need some help out. But the other reason is when we started our business, what we were looking at is a verse in Isaiah that says, I will be a well of deep water in rivers that have run dry. And so in our business, what we're trying to do is rivers have run dry where we're at. I mean, dry. And so what we're trying to do is bring in some of that outside money, bring in some of that enthusiasm, that sense of entrepreneurship back into the community, and that's really where that name comes from.
All right, we're going to open up to questions. Please raise your hand, and we'll start right here.
Hi, nice job on your presentation. So it looks like you've definitely found some pain with this, with the C stores. So a couple of quick questions. One, how good is your OCR? If they're scanning all their invoices, how much work are you guys doing on the back end? And is that improving? And then the second question is resellers your only sales channel? And if so, what's their close rate look like?
Okay, so the first question is related to how good the OCR is. And the second question was how good are our resellers doing? So I'll answer the first question with the OCR. The OCR, if you're trying to replicate what it is that we're doing, OCR is not going to be enough for you. It's just not. So behind the scenes, we're scrubbing and cleaning OCR, but we're also applying an algorithm that finds all the errors. So Connie never makes the same mistake twice. All right, so last year, thousands of invoices processed, we had 2 errors. 2. So honestly, she is highly, highly accurate, but it's for proprietary reasons and it's not OCR. OCR technology is going to improve, and I think it'll get better. The issue is the quality of the scans. That's the #1 reason. So, if your supplier is never going to change the print font on that invoice, you're stuck with what you're stuck with. So we didn't try to assume that the industry was going to change and wait for it to get there and build in the future. What we said is this is a problem now, and companies take a long time to move. So it's probably going to continue to be a problem for another 5 to 10 years. Let's just solve it now and be the person who solves it now. Now, to your other point with the resellers, never as quickly as what I would love them to be. Never as quickly. So the first reseller, we had 2 in the first week. And then the next month, they brought on another 4. And then this month, they're starting a program that we're kind of helping with that they did no advertising. They didn't know advertising, and their salespersons aren't doing it. So what we're doing is we're saying, okay, we're going to incentivize you to advertise and to blow that up a little bit more. Our current trajectory is we're just counting on 10 to 20 from each of these resellers. So it's not a lot, but we have a lot of resellers. So that's really where that is getting driven from. The second one Had 4 right away, lost their marketing rep, and then turned around the next day. I could tell you some great stories about this experience. We almost went under trying to do this. And then the third reseller, they came in and brought us a big fish all at once. So in actuality, they are in love with the software, and all of their locations are coming on first of the month. So it just kind of depends.
I have a question on your left.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I can see why Corey likes your logo, because he's wearing those glasses. But mini question, what is OCR? But the bigger question, the market that you're working with, convenience stores, are they by nature kind of isolated operators? And how do you deal with that challenge if you think in that word of mouth? Like, it sounds like once one operator gets it, he's like, I love it. But how do you promote them
somebody?
talking to each other?
Yeah. So I'll answer the first question. OCR is optical character reading, and it's technology where you can send data, you can send any file through a scanner, and the computer can read what that data is and then turn it into actual data. And so that's a growing and expanding business today. The second question is, how do we get these guys to talk? It's not really that they're talking to each other, it's that they're telling their suppliers how much they love it. So our conversations are with the suppliers. The suppliers see them every single week. Those store owners telling those suppliers is really what gets us going. So even our resellers, as joint customers, it says, I want this. We went to the conference and we said 100% electronic supplier invoices, and 10 people stopped by dragging their technology provider, provide this is what I want, do this. So that's what gets them going.
I have a question on your left. Back in the back.
Okay.
I'm just curious, you follow more of a SaaS model or more like a productized service model? I'm curious about every time you add a new convenience store, you've got the scanner that does a lot of the work, the algorithm, but is there a lot of manual work too? And so from a scalability issue, every new convenience store adds more hours for people that are on staff already?
To a degree. So because of the artificial intelligence under the scenes, we actually eliminate more and more of that, the more the invoices they send in. So we do have manual processing going in behind the scenes, but there's intelligence that keeps us from using those unless we have to. And so that's where a lot of the work and effort went into. And I missed your second question. Oh, scalability. Scalability is not a problem. We currently work with internally, I'll just tell you, everybody's looking for a job where I'm at, so it's going to be a long time before I'm going to be out of employees that can check, invoices. Then the second piece is we work with an external company known as, it's an external service in India and also in Kenya. And what they are is a responsible corporation building well-paying jobs within those areas, hiring college students, and then getting them out to go. So it's a company called Cloud Factory, and they're very, very good where they are. Our COO is a leadership trainer that spent many months in India with him and his wife, and so the relationship comes through that.
Question in the middle.
Hi. So with startups, a lot of times naming things is really hard. So I'm curious if there's a story behind the name Connie and how that's working for you. I hope that it's at least giving people someone else to blame other than you.
That was the secret. You've got it. And it works great. So we named our SaaS after a person's name, our SaaS product after a person's name, because Connie can get more skills. And that makes sense to pay more for somebody that has more skills when you're thinking about it as a person instead of thinking about it as software. Nobody wants to pay for extra software features, but they'll sure pay for an employee with more skills. And that just translated better. To the name, Connie is the name of my grandmother who died with Alzheimer's disease.
I have a question in the middle.
It seems like you've got some good ideas, really good ideas going on the marketing side. Just the basics of personifying your brand. People like people, not machines and logos. Help me understand a couple of things. I really like your strategy of going after resellers, but are you still going after C-store owners as well?
Yes.
Okay. It seems to me, and I don't understand distribution networks like someone in the business, but is there a benefit. Help me figure out the benefit to the reseller, number one, for having their clients signed up to this system. And can you tailor your marketing effort to just go after resellers? You've got a much smaller pool that you have to fish from, and there's a certain loyalty and influence that I am assuming the resellers would have on the C-stores. You can sweep up the bigger, can you sweep up the bigger pool by going after the influencers?
Yeah, that's true. So let's talk about why we have both applications going. The first is while the resellers are out in the business, this is really a piece of software that's meant for a smaller chain or a single independent. So the software that's out there that's reselling us, it was built for the operational models of large chains. So the software itself is not necessarily geared toward the independent. So they struggle really selling inside of the independent market. So this helps them to some degree sell within that market, because now I don't have to have a person on staff that does this work. But in reality, we're not really competing necessarily, nor does the software really compete with what it is that reseller does. So my background before I left the company I was at was to build a partnership technology program, and so I have considerable experience in what it takes to bring multiple competitors together to resell the exact same product and to distinguish between those competitors between each other so that they don't feel like they're competing necessarily with that service and they have to price it the same.
Question in the back.
So my background, I spent 24 years in the petroleum equipment business. So we sold the point of sale and the dispensers to the end users. And my question is, have you reached out to NACS, the National Association of Convenience Stores? Are you trying to work through the jobbers that are out there? They control a lot of what their independents do. They have a big say in what they put into their stores, the BPs, the mobiles. So to me, that would be something to go after as far as working with them to get that into more of their locations.
I would love to work with more jobbers. We approached a jobber, and because we're not a back office, they wouldn't sell us to their customers because they feel their customers need a back office. So I don't think they quite understood, but for the most part, that was their way of saying, hey, would be better for them if you would add these other features. We have worked with and will continue to try to work with more of the petroleum providers. We work in conjunction with those point of sales. It's contacts. As far as the National Association of Convenience Store, I was at the show this last September. Great story. We got all 3 resellers. We got our funding from our angel investors. 3 weeks after receiving our funding, we lost all 3 resellers in 1 week. So we went to the National Association for only one purpose, hunt down more resellers. None of those were all fault. One of them was a pricing dispute that we've addressed, but they knew for the whole time, and now they're a great partner. The second one, they were being acquired. The third one, they were being sued. So there was nothing we could do about either one of those last 2. But yeah, we went out there. I would like to do more with the National Association. What's great about this too as well, if you have any connections there, we are under this behind the scenes categorizing everything with the National Association of Convenience Store codes. So we can actually tell NACS what these stores are purchasing and the mix that's within their companies, and they really struggle getting that data from the small independents. And for those of you that aren't familiar with that industry, the independents make up 63% of that market and growing, the fastest growing.
All right, thank you very much. And final question is, what can we as a community do for you?
As a community, I did talk about the trust thing. Please continue doing that. And then you can tell them about us. You can schedule a demo. You can tell them, hey, they'll give you $100 off. I'll send you an Amazon gift card, whatever it is. Helping us reach those, if you have a relationship with a store owner, is really helpful for us. It's just a warm lead. If you have relationships with suppliers, things like that, that also helps us as well. If you have a relationship with an investor, I would love to find one that's more inside of our space, that understands what it is we're doing, that wouldn't mind slapping a label on us to say, hey, we trust these guys. That's the kind of investor that we're looking for at this point in time. Not that any entrepreneur ever takes away money. So.
Thank you very much. Okay, we've come to the end of our journey. Those of you that would like to share with us about the inclusive entrepreneurship will be meeting here after the meeting. We thank you for coming today, and next week we'd like you to attend, and we will be, actually the presenters will be Music Spoke and LED Rabbit. Thank you.